So today we're going to tackle a story that honestly doesn't get told nearly enough. It's the story of Africa and technological innovation. We're going to journey from a forgotten past of incredible scientific leadership to a future that is just brimming with potential. It's time to rewrite a narrative that has been misunderstood for centuries.
You know, this quote from Maya Angelou really hits the nail on the head for our discussion today. To truly understand Africa's role in the tech revolutions of tomorrow, we've got to go back, way back, and uncover a history of innovation that, as you're about to see, was pretty much deliberately buried. All right, here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with Africa's ancient tech genius. Then, we'll dig into how all that progress got stopped in its tracks. After that, we'll look at the industrial revolutions that Africa was largely locked out of. And finally, bring it to today, exploring how a new tech revolution is creating a chance for the continent to lead once again.
Okay, first up, let's jump in our time machine and head way back. Because long before European colonists ever arrived, Africa wasn't just, part of the conversation on science and tech. In a lot of ways, it was leading it.
And we're not talking about a few centuries here. This is a history of innovation that stretches back thousands of years. We're talking about a continent that was pioneering everything from the agricultural revolution to advanced medicine and metallurgy. This was the cutting edge.
Okay, just think about how sophisticated this was. We all learn about Hippocrates as the father of medicine, but the historical record points to Imhotep, an African who lived centuries earlier, treating hundreds of diseases. And it wasn't just in Egypt. In Africa's Great Lakes region, travelers documented incredibly complex surgeries like C-sections being performed with antiseptics. I mean, that's just mind-blowing for that era.
And then there's this. Get a load of this comparison. In metallurgy, ancient East Africans built furnaces that could get 200 to 400 degrees hotter than the best furnaces in the Roman Empire. Just stop and think about that for a second. They were hitting temperatures that European blacksmiths wouldn't be able to reach for centuries. This wasn't some basic stuff. This was high-level, cutting-edge engineering.
So that begs the question, right? If Africa was on this incredible path, what on earth happened? Well, that brings us to what we're calling the Great Interruption, a period that just brutally slammed the brakes on this journey of innovation.
While the intentions behind colonialism were shockingly clear. I mean, just read this letter from Belgium's King Leopold II to missionaries in the Congo. He lays it all out. The mission wasn't about saving souls, it was about economics. It was about using religion as a tool to control the people and protect industrial interests.
This was basically psychological warfare. The entire goal was to disconnect Africans from their own land and its incredible wealth, making them feel like outsiders looking in on their own resources while they were being taken.
And here's how they planned to make it permanent. The strategy was to replace critical thinking with blind obedience. It was all about breaking that chain of knowledge passed down from parents to children so that traditional wisdom, innovation, and any spark of rebellion would just fade away.
So as you can imagine, this great interruption had absolutely devastating consequences that lasted for centuries. It essentially locked Africa out of the first three industrial revolutions, changing its role from an innovator to simply a source of labor and materials for everyone else.
And when you lay it out like this, the pattern is just undeniable. During the first industrial revolution with the steam engine, Africa was relegated to being a source of enslaved labor. During the second, electricity and mass production, it was a colonized territory to be stripped of resources, and by the third, the computer revolution, the continent was positioned as just a consumer of tech, not a creator. And the hit to its industrial power was just catastrophic. Think about this. Africa's piece of the global manufacturing pie actually shrank from over 3% in 1970 to less than 2% by 2013. So while the rest of the world was building up, Africa was being forced backward.
And that legacy, well, it carries right on into the modern era. This digital divide we hear about, it's a direct result of being shut out of that third industrial revolution. Even in 2020, internet penetration in Africa was lagging more than 20 points behind the global average. That's a huge hurdle in a world that runs on connectivity. But, and this is a really big but, that's not where the story ends. Not by a long shot. Because a new revolution is here. The Fourth Industrial Revolution, or 4IR, and it plays by a whole different set of rules.
See, the cool thing about this revolution is that it's different. The old ones needed massive factories, right? Huge physical infrastructure. But the 4IR is decentralized. It's built on data, on knowledge, on connectivity. That completely lowers the barrier to entry. All you need now is a laptop and a brilliant idea.
And that brings us to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? Could this be the moment? Could Africa use this new revolution to bypass the industrial gaps of the past and reclaim its historic role as a global innovator?
And here's the exciting part. The answer isn't some what-if scenario. It is happening right now. Innovators across the continent are already using 4IR tech to solve real-world problems in absolutely brilliant ways.
Okay, check this out. In Uganda, there's a biomedical smart jacket that uses AI to diagnose pneumonia faster than a doctor. In Morocco, they're developing advanced tests for major diseases. And in Senegal, students built a VR headset so they could conduct lab experiments without needing a physical lab. This is the very definition of leapfrogging. They're not just trying to catch up, they're jumping ahead with new solutions.
And we're seeing that same brilliant thinking when it comes to infrastructure and finance. You've got robotic traffic cops in Kinshasa, you've got M-Pesa in Kenya, which basically invented mobile banking for the masses way before apps like Venmo or Apple Pay became a big deal in the West. And in Rwanda, you have solar-powered kiosks providing Wi-Fi and electricity. These are solutions built for Africa, by Africa.
Okay, so what's with this number, 3.1 billion? Well, it stands for 3.1 billion calculations per second. It's a monumental achievement in the world of supercomputing, and it came from an African innovator. And by the way, this kind of genius isn't new. We're talking about 1989, when Nigerian engineer Dr. Philip Emeagwali networked 65,000 processors together to create one of the fastest computers on Earth. And get this, his inspiration came from the structure of a honeycomb. What a perfect example of ancient wisdom meeting modern tech.
So, to keep this amazing momentum going, it's pretty clear what needs to happen. The ecosystem has to be there to support this talent. That means financing local startups, providing the right kind of training for innovators, and making sure they have access to the materials they need to build the future.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. As we've seen, the genius, the ingenuity, it's always been there, from ancient furnaces to modern supercomputers. The capacity for innovation was never, ever the problem. The real question for today is, what does it take to make sure that potential is never held back again, but is finally let loose to change the world?